at this stage right now, and what's your thought process?
Well, with Gardner and Luton, we're in good shape. I mean, we got two young guys that obviously they both have played. They've both done a very good job, and I think right now we're just trying to get a feel for them going in with the new system. There's just a lot of newness right now, so that'll all shake itself out once we get into the off-season program, which hopefully we have, and we'll go from there.
And just a follow-up question. Do you have any comments about the practice facility? Just shed a little light on your end on that.
I don't know much about that at this time. I think the one thing we're pushing for from an organizational standpoint, Coach and I, we want the best of the best. And what that looks like moving forward, nobody, we don't know that, but we're going to work hard to give our players and the staff the best opportunity to be successful. And if that's a new facility, hopefully that's something that we can get to at some point down the road.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Or let's go to Gene and then Hayes.
Hey, Trent, could you talk a little bit, any information updated on the guys who opted out last year? Al Woods, Rodney Gunter, Lorente McCray, Rashad Melvin. Do you expect any of those guys to be a part of the team in 2021?
Well, we're still working through that with all three of them. I don't think there's clarity yet on any of them, but certainly working that way, and we should know something within the next week or two.
Okay. As a follow-up, when it comes to free agency, now that you know who is going to at least be available to you, do you have a certain priority in mind in terms of positions, money, things like that, where you have a list just as you would place a value on an NFL draft board?
Yeah, we do. We certainly do. We're looking at a lot of different positions and a lot of different players. And the key word there, Gene, was value. We're looking for value. That isn't always the most expensive player. There's all different levels of like, right? When we say we like a player, to what level and what value do we place on them? So that's going to be critical as we build this team out moving forward, is making sure we get the value of the position and the player correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Let's go over to Hayes and then D-Rock.
Hey, Trent, what were your impressions of Trevor Lawrence at his pro day, and what kind of information have you gathered from him from meeting with him virtually?
Well, I didn't attend the pro day. Right now with the restrictions, there's only three. You can have three staff members from each organization attend. And I felt that it was very important to get the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback coach to that workout. I've had the privilege of seeing him play multiple times. So for us as an organization to prioritize our coaching staff being there, I thought was instrumental and very important.
And then what's been your impressions of him in the virtual meetings, or is that left up to Urban and the coaches?
Well, you're only allowed 5 virtual meetings with prospects. I believe we've used 2 up right now with Trevor. I have not been on those. Those have been more coach-oriented. I will be on one as we move forward, but the restriction of 5 one-hour sessions per prospect kind of limits us to exactly what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Hayes. Let's go over to Mike DiRocco.
Hey, Trent, yesterday Urban said got to totally rebuild that tight end room. So can you give us an idea about what your thought process is on that? And, if that's one of the highest priorities you have in free agency at this point?
Mike, I'd love to give you names, but if I give you names, I'm giving you the names of the 31 other teams we're competing against. So we're going to keep, the names and what we're thinking to ourselves at this point. But we've got a plan that uses both free agency and the draft to do so. And we've got some guys internally that are going to be competing for those spots as well.
Was that one of the position groups that you looked at when you first got here and did your evaluation where you thought we have got to get significantly better there?
Well, I think you look at the overall roster, and what you do is you try to look at the resources you have available, both through free agency, the draft, who's on your team, and try to put a game plan together using that model. What can we get done in free agency? What can we get done in the draft? Where does the draft seem to have some value, some depth to it positionally? Where does free agency have some depth to it positionally? And you try to put a game plan together to attack the roster as a whole, not looking at it individually, position by position, but overall as a team.
I know you've had Zoom calls with Trevor, obviously, but I think also Zach Wilson and possibly Justin Fields. Do you want to kind of do the same thing and evaluate and investigate 4 or 5 quarterbacks, or do you want to just kind of limit it to maybe 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think it's our job to know every individual that's entering the draft, and we've had a lot of Zoom calls internally with various departments, our scouting staff, our coaching staff, our player assessment staff. We've had a lot of different people reaching out to play, and that's only going to pick up pace as we go down the road here. So I think that's an ongoing process, and we'll continue to use every means available to get to know these players as well as we can, because it's critical to the decision-making process.
Thank you.
Thanks, D-Rock. All right, let's go to Cassidy Hill.
Off my mute button for a second. Trent, I know you said that you want to go for value on the market, but do you have a punch list of priorities as far as units go when it comes to free agency?
We do, Cassidy, we really do. But again, any information I give you, I'm giving to 31 other teams. So for me to sit here and give you a punchline of positionally of where we're going wouldn't make a lot of sense at this time. So I hope you understand that and respect that.
I won't tell if you don't. And then you used the tag, obviously, on Cam Robinson. Were there any other players, maybe like Cole or some of these other guys that are coming up that were considered as well?
Again, any information I give you, I give to everybody. So, we use the tag on Cam. Cam's a good young football player, 26 years old, that's developing and has done a good job. He knows where he stands with this organization. We have a lot of respect for him and where he can get to as a player. So it was it's hard to find left tackles in the National Football League. They don't make many body types that big, that athletic, that with that type of length. So he's a young man that we're excited about working with, and he knows exactly what he needs to do as we move forward, and we're looking forward to working with him.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cassidy. All right, let's go to Mark Long and then Tony Wiggins.
Hey, Trent, I'm just curious. The NFL settled on its salary cap for this year at 182.5. I was just curious what your reaction to that was. Was that about what you expected, ballpark? And then maybe you can just give us some ideas. What do you envision in terms of spending to the cap in year one? Do you want to be judicious here, or do you want to go ahead and take a big whack at this thing in year one?
I'm just glad it wasn't in the 120s like you first stated. No, we figured it would be somewhere between 180 and 185, and that's what we planned on. As far as spending, we're always going to look to push the envelope and spend to the cap on a 3-year rolling cycle, whether you're above or below, but on over a 3-year period, hoping to spend to the cap. And we have an ownership that's willing to do that, and we want to do that. So we're gonna use the dollars. I spoke earlier about value. I think value is critical. You have to get the value of the players right, and just like building a stock portfolio. If you get a bunch of overpriced stocks, you buy high and sell low. Eventually, that catches up with you. So we want to treat the players right and value them correctly and bring them into the organization and give them the best of the best. And that's what we're looking to do.
Thanks, Mark. All right, let's go to Tony Wiggins and then Cole Pepper.
Hi, Trent. When it comes to team building and the approach in the draft, if you're looking at a player and you're already fortified pretty much with your team, but he's the most talented player. Would you take him over a player at a position of need that isn't as good?
Well, it depends on what that level of isn't as good is. I think you're always looking to add the best of the best to the roster, whether that's a position. You never go wrong by creating more depth at any position. And what you're trying to do is build as competitive a roster as possible with the best available players. So, we've always placed a little more value on the less value on need, more value on the value of the player itself. So that's how we'll continue to look at it. But if the need and the value are coincide, then we'll go with need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Culpepper and then John Shipley.
Hey, Trent, following on to Mark's question about the salary cap, I think everybody thought the cap would go down this year. How far it was going to go down was kind of the question. Because it did go to where it did, and you have so much salary cap room, did that create a bigger advantage for the Jaguars than it would have if the cap had remained the same or gone up because of the number of players who are now likely to be out on the market?
I don't know. I think it's all relative. Everyone still has the same amount, whether it would have been 185 or 182.5 or 180. Everyone would have been proportionally the same. So I think, we're sitting in a good cap space right now. And we're going to continue to look at this market and see how it unfolds. Generally speaking, the big contracts get done early in the process. And, we'll follow that and we'll be involved in that. Where it ends up leading us to player-wise, that remains to be seen. But we feel very good about where we're currently at. We feel good about the plan. And now we just got to execute.
Are you expecting, though, that there are going to be more free agents available as a result of where the cap is? Because teams that were maybe didn't have the kind of salary cap space that you did are going to have to make some decisions that otherwise they wouldn't have made?
I think there'll be more available, yes. When that trickle-down effect's going to happen, is it going to happen early? Is it going to happen as players get signed? I think that remains to be seen. But there is going to be a plethora of players available, and we're going to continue to monitor the free agents that are already on the market, and we'll look at guys that become available when they become available.
All right, bonus points for using plethora.
All right.
Well,
Thanks,
I got a
Cole.
few more words I could use too.
All right, let's finish up with two more, John Shipley and then Brent Martineau.
Hey, Trent. Urban mentioned yesterday how important the assistant coaches will be in player evaluation and bringing people in. Can you just talk about the working relationship with the assistant coaches in the front office and scouting department?
Well, first of all, I think it's critical, and I think it's evident here that we're very aligned in how we think. I think the coaches should have a lot of buy-in to what we're doing. And in order to create buy-in, they have to have involvement. So it's very important that when we bring a player in here, that everybody's aligned. When everybody's aligned, it's very easy to move forward. We talk about talent acquisition. You acquire talent, then you have to be able to develop them. Once you develop them, you got to be able to retain them. So those are the three levels we look at. What's the likelihood of bringing someone in, acquiring the right person with the right mindset, the right physical gifts, and then developing them to their full potential. And that's something we're going to place a lot of emphasis on within the sports performance department, developing these guys, creating as much value for them individually as we can. And once we do that, our job's to retain them and do the best job we can. We hope it becomes very difficult to retain our guys because we have so many that have maxed out their value. That's the goal.
Thanks, Trent.
All right, thanks, John. Let's finish with one more from Brent Martineau.
Hey there, Trent. Urban talked highly of James Robinson yesterday. I'm sure your evaluation has been really good on his rookie season, but how dynamic can you guys get in that room? And what's your evaluation of the entire room as it sits right now?
Well, right now, James obviously had a tremendous year, especially when you factor in how he entered the league as a college free agent, 1,000+ yards. Very, very consistent performer week in and week out, tough, has a great mindset, the type of player we're looking for. But we have to add some explosiveness to that room as well. And we got to be able to take some of the carries off of James. you can only ride a horse so long. So he's done a great job. He will continue to do a great job for the organization. And we feel he'll even take a step forward from where he was a year ago. But adding some competitiveness to that room, we feel we've got some guys in-house that can compete for roles, but we're certainly looking to add to that room as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You
All
bet.
right, thanks, Brent. And thank you, Trent, for your time today. We'll wrap it up with that one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, media.